Alright guys, it's time for another hilarious game of Mordekaiser mid. Just kidding, Mordekaiser top. What the fuck was that? Right now at least it looks like we have one AFK, but it's possible that they'll return. So we're sitting in lane against Poppy, who has the worst of all possible masteries, which is kind of interesting. Mainly because it's significantly better to get the one that lets you heal. Like if you're a tank and you think you're going to get to auto attack people, which you are because you're Poppy, you should probably take the one that heals you for a percentage of your life after being in combat for 4 seconds. Especially if you control the pace of a fight. Yeah, I'm sorry, little god. I think it looks like probably the top laner is giving a leash to the jungler. Something interesting. I don't particularly sit in this lane a whole lot, so you know, I couldn't say particularly how that one was going to play out. But if he got the shield, it wasn't going to kill me. Like, it wasn't like he's going to be able to do a lot of damage. So, it's always worth it to try to test out your limitations before it's almost too late. Because when it is already too late, it's a problem. Oh, hey, I wonder if I could beat him to the shield. Oh no, I really needed to, but it turns out I cannot. So that flash worth it for the first blood, assuming I don't die. But I did. Shouldn't have talked. Had I not talked, I would have lived. I didn't. Mom did.
So everything stays in that room? It makes it worse? Are you talking to Joe?
No.
Oh,
Just talking to myself.
well, last time I thought you were talking to yourself, so... You weren't. You weren't talking to yourself.
You only need to click once.
Typically this would be a lane that would be somewhat challenging, but because either I know the lane matchup better or possibly my first blood puts me into a position where Poppy is really unable to effectively commit any really any aggressive moves. But if she does happen to walk into the lane, she will take damage. And that's part of the advantage of being Mordekaiser, is that your job is to trade damage as strongly as possible. Because you have a lot of ways to recover and sustain through damage. Because there's nothing you can do about getting ganked through your lack of a ward because there's no pressure on the map, but it basically doesn't really matter. One assist is not going to make Poppy any more able to deal damage. Poppy teleported bottom. Which you can kind of expect because you died and you didn't actually have any way of positioning or producing threat on the map. But considering you're Mordekaiser, you can actually do a lot of damage to the tower. Since they use the teleport, they're not going to get back into lane very quickly. If you pick correctly, you can get a full charge of your shield off, or a full activation of your W off, which will mean that you This is Mordekaiser, and you kill people. So part of the reason I survived that was because I was drinking my health potion as soon as I actually got the ability to see that I was taking damage, which is very important. But also was because people always underestimate the amount of damage that Mordekaiser's ultimate does over time, because it looks like it does, you know, a fair portion of damage. It looks like it does a fair portion of damage up front, but in reality, it actually does most of its damage over time. Over about 10 seconds, it does 3/4 of its damage. So getting a little bit of health and a little bit of shield. Oh my god. Up front just helps you live, and then it gives you a lot of health over time. 75% of your opponent's maximum health, basically. 30% of it. So, I don't know, was it 3% of their maximum life per second? Being able to ultimate again immediately is really nice. Didn't really cost me anything. Stat-wise, you know, yeah, it's on cooldown, but it's better than dying, especially given that. Oops, shit. Really wanted that. Doesn't really cost me anything. It's not a cooldown I was planning on using. I don't really have a lot of necessity for. I'm being greedy right now. I should be going back. With this amount of money, Scar used to, when he streamed, he used to talk about something which is spending your gold efficiently. So 700 gold is not something I can do something with, and Azania's right now is not going to save me from the enemy team. They're all sustained damage. In fact, it may make it worse, because Vel'Koz will be able to sit there and wait for his spells to come off cooldown. So getting Azania's isn't great. However, getting a Rylai's will create a lot of opportunities for me. This will give me the W is very important to give the move speed. And just to help me push the lane out, get a kill. I didn't even choose to actively control for that kill. It just happened because my ability timed out. I was more interested in closing on to my opponent than I was actually trying to kill them. Because Poppy used to be really, really hard to kill at low health. It's not so much that way anymore. Oh shit, we just lost dragon, which is a shame. As Mordekaiser getting dragons is I wouldn't say it's critical, but it is very, very nice. Obviously, if you are not familiar, getting a dragon means you could push towers. It means that you can. It means you could do a lot of things you couldn't do before because you're a melee. Bottom lane is kind of in a shitty position. So we're kind of in a shitty position because Vel'Koz could just kite us for days and days and days. So we're just gonna ultimate to get life back. You'll notice that we're still healing a significant amount. And I think there's a ward here because Vel'Koz wouldn't be standing there if he was not confident. Let's see. There probably was a ward. At least one. Someone doesn't know their geometry. Which you can tell because they ran away when they weren't going to get hit. And especially there's not a whole lot we can do in this position without team. But we can choose to block them from defending the turret, which is very important. Extra damage is and always will be extra damage. There's nothing we can do in our own lane currently. No. It's sad that we had to flash there, but it's better to flash and not die than just to die for free. Our support mid laner are gone, so the tower's just gone. There's no way. Oh shit. So what happened there is very important. You can immediately activate your W back for health. You can get all your health back. It's a maximum amount immediately as long as you hit a champion. You can get this much. Basically it's 216, which is a significant amount. We don't have any wards. So 260 health, and then we can immediately get 17% of your maximum shield, which was probably a little bit less than that, but it was probably like 17%. It's like a sixth or a fifth or something. So it's a couple hundred health. It's enough that nobody can just decide to just jump on you and kill you underneath a tower. Which is exactly, you know, what they were trying to do there. There wasn't a tower the first time, but the second time, obviously, there was. And our strong defensive stats, just base defensive stats, mean that it's very difficult for anyone to just kill you. The fact that you can ultimate and bait opponents out with your Q strikes means that you have a lot of power. You know, people are not familiar with Mordekaiser, obviously, in 5.2. And they don't know particularly how to deal with him. So you take advantage of that. And you take advantage of the way that you can itemize and realize, you know, hey, I could pull this off, or hey, I can't. But actually, in this case, I can. So if Kat had went in and fought that, she could have went in and got a free reset, got a whole bunch of damage. She didn't. I don't know what's wrong with our AD carry. He won't play with us. You know, I don't know what that's about. But it's... I wouldn't say irrelevant, but it basically doesn't actually wind up mattering. We can get a whole bunch of free stuff on people. Free damage, free slow. And, you know, try to make our next fight happen. All we need to do is really be able to push Vel'Koz off of the tower. And we can do that just by our presence. Vel'Koz, the ghost of Vel'Koz. Not a great ghost. It doesn't really do a whole lot that's useful to us. But it does give us more ranged presence, especially since we don't have a lot of ranged presence already. Just any little bit, any extra little bit is beneficial to us. Dragon's coming up in 20 seconds, which means that getting a ward down or two means this is a free one for us. Getting Dragon on Mordekaiser is super great. For many, many reasons. The most important of which is that you get the ghost. You know, the whole point of Mordekaiser is to get the ghost. I don't know why our team is not taking this free dragon, which is significantly less free the more time that it takes. Obviously, if we get crowd controlled, which we did, we got ulted, I think, by Sona. Or by Sivir. No, Sona. You know, that would be a good time for us to have our Zanyas, but it was not really an option. Since our team had no faith, no trust, they didn't want to just take Dragon. Our AD carry had backed, which is really stupid. For an assortment of reasons, the most important of which is that there was clear vision of us taking Dragon when she took the tower. So it was obvious that a play was going to be happening. She was sitting there, took the tower. We were currently positioning around Dragon. It hadn't spawned yet. Instead of sticking around, even though I had already asked Alistair to stick around and help out, Ash decided to back. However, I knew that strength-wise, we're stronger as a team than the enemy is. I knew this for a multitude of reasons. Number one is that I'm there. And I am a significant portion of the team's damage. And more importantly, I am a significant amount of the team's damage, and I can survive the front line. Because I have some defensive stats. So, with that in mind, you know, not giving up position and letting them take a free dragon, especially these later dragons, which become significantly better over time, means that we don't want to do it. So Cold Drake is enormously useful to melee characters because it gives just flat move speed. We're already having a difficult time trying to close onto our enemies because they have stuns and slows and many other things like that. And we don't actually need all that much in order to get an advantage and push a lane or a tower or an objective. Literally all we need to do is wait for this objective, because the lane will naturally push itself forward, and we will naturally be able to bait them into fighting. So, in this case, you know, our team is not deciding to play an objective-based game, probably because this is low gold, early silver, and we are doing this push all by ourselves. It's not the end of the world, it's just slightly more frustrating because we have such an obviously powerful position on the map. We have great wards, you know, we have multiple people. I don't even know, I can't really hit anybody because of all the crowd control going on, but and then they get picked off one by one because the enemy team is grouping and we are not. So if this whole fight had happened with me there, as the person they could choose to focus instead of Katarina, she could have gotten more resets. Like, just undeniably more resets were available if she has more teammates to help her. Number one and number two, grouping with the teammate currently pushing an objective is always better than grouping with teammates not currently pressing an objective. So what happened in middle was they skirmished and fought by themselves and didn't get anything done, and I didn't get anything done except a metric ton of damage on top tower. So what does that mean? Well, I got stuff done. I didn't just get kills, I actually achieved objectives. So I consider that a better play, and as players get more skilled, they will consider that a better play. We have many mini objectives available to us on the map. For instance, right now, getting the Scuttle Crab is useful. There's a number of reasons why the Scuttle Crab is useful, but it's an unkillable ward. It's gold in our pocket. It's a move speed benefit if we happen to be trying to fight down here. And, you know, there's a million reasons why getting a Scuttle Crab is useful. This is great because we can try to do all kinds of craziness. And this is great because we just continue to spiral kill after kill after kill. But the whole time, you'll notice that I'm using my ghost in a way that is beneficial to actually pursuing an objective as opposed to just getting kills, which is something that's very common to my team. Even though our Ashe is trying her very best not to be helpful at all. It's difficult to be that useless, to be useless all the time. However, grouping up in an area where we are about to take a lot of damage is still far from beneficial. Fuck. Shit, actually. But it doesn't matter because Katarina does what Katarina does and cleans up. we actually lost the tower top, and they're not pressing the objective that is safe to press, which is bottom. Money-wise, we are just a little bit more fed probably than Twitch, and significantly more fed than anybody else on the team. The enemy team. Which is great. You know, really, obviously you want to be fed if you can. But, you know, our biggest hardship in this game is that our teammates don't group. So we can either do the same thing they are, be selfish, and just, you know, farm, try to get our money so that we can fight by ourselves, or we can try to group anyway, which is what we have been doing. Obviously, since we started grouping, we started dying. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice that I went from being like probably 5-2 to being 6-5 and 8. So I've died 3 times for assists and team fights. So, you know, helping my team win team fights, even though it's personally getting me killed because I don't have escapes and I'm a high priority target because I have a lot of kills. So dragon is up. It should not be. I'm taking dragon without you, and they didn't even get it, which is worse. If Alistair had happened to close enough, you could get a free slow. Because the activation of your W will slow. It will slow people. So Alistair is posturing pretty aggressively, but there's not a whole lot we can do with the whole enemy team there. So what we're going to do is focus on the smaller objectives that we can control, which is Scuttle Crab. As you can see, there's my proof of concept, where your W will still slow the enemy. It is a non-active magic ability, so there's no reason to think it wouldn't, but in case anybody was doubting me, here it is. You know, with all the power we have, we should be able to pressure like Baron right now. However, we can't because our AD carry is doing her level best to actually cause us to lose. And our mid laner is melee. I'm melee. Our ranged AD carry doesn't want to actually play with us in any meaningful way. So what are we going to do? You know, what could we as a team actually do? The good thing is that we have a lot of different buttons that we can press. So as long as they can keep the enemy off of us, you know, we could take this Baron. And even if they can't, even if they don't even try to keep the enemy off us, we can still take the Baron because we have a metric shit ton. Oof. That kind of sucks. It reset the Baron, so we can't actually fight it again because of all the damage our team has taken. So that was a really good play by Poppy. But also, it is just mean that we traded our useless AD carry for a useless jungler. And we can still... Oh, there's vision there? Interesting. We still pressured an objective. You know, that's the whole point of how to win the game, is to be pressuring objectives. If you're not pressuring an objective, you're either wasting time or trying to lose, you know, which is what Ashe has been doing all game. And of course, you always have to learn not to say these things anymore, because people can't handle the fact that they are actively trying to lose this game. Because they don't think about it in those contexts. But since we are doing a lot of damage in team fights, we are trying, and our teammate already has the only defensive item that we would be trying to get, or the only like pseudo defensive offensive weapon we'd be trying to get. That Alistair goes on anyone, which he should have. He should have went on somebody by now. Oh. We should be getting minion support right now. And even without it, we can use the ghost to tank it for a little while. Just to let our AD carry hit it, since we don't actually need to hit it ourselves. Since we have basically no attack damage in the first place. We drop wards as we go. We will be able to just find out, hey, they're trying to do Baron, or hey, what's going on? You know, we have a long time on this Baron. On our Ghost still. But just by ourselves, we should be able to actually attempt to take an objective. Our team is too scared, and our AD carry is too busy trying to do his own thing for this to ever work. But we can and will continue to bait the enemy into trying to, find out what's going on in Baron Pit. Cat is too scared of nothing to go in on that. Even though she has a perfectly good, heal and ultimate and everything, that would just let her get a kill. She doesn't know how much damage Mordekaiser does, or she doesn't care. She's just a freaking idiot. God, our team is doing something very stupid, which is chasing after, the enemy. But as long as he gets one auto attack, I get the kill. That's our cat dying for free because she's by herself, basically. Once Alistair uses his combo, there's nothing that he can do about it. And if our Alistair would have stayed with us, which he should be this whole time, that's a free Twitch Ghost. But it's not, because we don't actually have the people on our team that we're supposed to have. Okay, Rammus lands a taunt, and we get even more and more and more and more. We can dive this very easily. And it's worth it to dive it. To get a ghost. Any ghost. Doesn't even matter which one. I don't know what happened to the ghost. Probably was tanking the turret this whole time. But you'll see, we continually, when we get help from our teammates, we get the ability to kill people. See, we have our Luden's Echo up, which means that any amount of magical damage on an enemy is enough to slow them. We don't have a tank. Is our biggest issue right now. Our tank is not there. I'm not a tank. I haven't built any actual defensive stats, and our jungler is sitting in his own base. I don't know why Rammus was not there, that whole time, but they don't really have a great tank either. Didn't notice I had Zanya's. There's not a whole lot that this one can really do, actually. Thornmail. The fact that we can't take a Baron even with pure lane control from mid lane is pretty sad, and it's just because our team doesn't actually group. Rammus just died there because Katarina wasn't there, because Rammus wasn't there when we died, and for lots of other particularly good reasons. But mostly because we just don't freaking group. Like, we just don't group, ever. We don't have a tank, we don't have our smite. The enemy team has their smite, so there's no point in trying to push Baron right now. So I'm going bottom. I already know Poppy doesn't have her teleport. Ashe is down here anyway, which she shouldn't be. But, you know, she's been trying her very best to make us lose this game anyway, so why should I expect it to be any different now? She shows herself in bottom lane, which is even worse, because it means that they know that we are missing 2 people up there. So they should be taking Baron right now. They are responding to the threat of 2 people trying to, going to push on a tower. But even with us tanking that whole objective, Ashe basically was still worthless in terms of dealing damage to kill anything. And because our team doesn't group, we have 2 in our own jungle, not even walking in a straight line from wherever they were to where we were. And nobody defending top lane against Poppy pushing basically by herself. Given that we're dying mostly to physical damage, which is the tower, now we're get some armor so we can get our Guardian Angel. There's nothing else to spend money on at this point for us. We're not going to try to mitigate their magic resist. First of all, they have nominal amounts of magic resist in the first place. But second of all, it just really doesn't matter, because we need to live in a fight. We don't need to kill people. We have enough people that can kill people on our team. We killed Poppy. Everyone is here for once. We could take Baron. We're not going to. There's a free dragon that's going to be coming up in just a second. And even though Ashe has been spectacularly far from any useful team fight in any useful way, we still have more farm than her. It's Elder Dragon at this point, which means that it's spectacularly useful. Amongst other things, at pushing objectives, which we've been trying desperately to do for a million years, but our team doesn't actually help in any meaningful way. And there's no point in trying to communicate this with them, because they're friggin' retarded. So we're now trading the Baron, that we've been dancing around for 10 years, for the Dragon. And maybe our support for absolutely free. And the fact that our Ashe hasn't figured out how to auto-attack anybody in all this time. all this typing is a mistake. But at this point, I don't really care. At this point, I don't even know who I ulted, but it didn't matter because they focused all their damage onto the wrong person. That was a 5-on-5, you piece of dumb piece of shit. Again, the lack of minion control or anything vaguely resembling wave control means that we actually can't be pushing an objective right now, even though we have 30-second death timers. Our AD carry doesn't actually do any damage, even though she's got. It's 43 minutes in the game and our AD carry has 254 attack damage. Which is pretty amazing considering that's 100 less than I have, and I haven't built a single point of attack damage. But you win and lose a game based on actually pushing objectives, which, surprisingly, or perhaps unsurprisingly for those of us who know anything about playing a video game, when you blew up on somebody, they actually do the opposite of whatever it is that you say they've been doing. So Ash wouldn't group, now she grouped, and look, we instantly won.